Hey guys, welcome to Vince-Vell Customs. This is part 6 of the PrototypeZ Sagat Street Fighter Resin Kit paint up. Now, this video is dedicated to how I pin statues in the bases. Now, I do this with generic bases I make and, you know, just whatever I really like to do. So, right now, his legs are actually drying because I just glued them and I put some Magic Sculpt in there, so I actually have to do the seam work, so I can't really handle it too much. So, what I did was, underneath the left foot, I put a little bit of magnet here, under that key. And then under the right foot, I drilled out the whole entire key that was here. And I drilled in here, and I have a metal rod. Now you can get these at Home Depot. They're squares. They come in like 2 to 3 feet long. And you can just saw them off. And then at the edge of it, whichever is going to be going in the base, you want to grind out and make it smooth. Because if you have it, the sharp edges trying to go in and out of the base, you just keep chopping it up. So you want to kind of smooth out. Basically your typical pre-paint type statue. So, I measured the foot out, so this way I knew that this could go into here like this. And you want to make sure it goes even, so I kind of have to play with it when I'm ready to do it. You don't want to go in an angle because the piece doesn't go at an angle, it comes down. So you want to make sure it's going flush like that, even. Make sure you measure. Use a piece of tape when you drill in on the drill, because you don't want to drill out to here and screw it all up and have to resculpt. So, and the reason why I'm doing all this is because when I did the keys and I got the legs on just as a test, I realized that the keys didn't line up on the base. I figured that was going to happen because it is a resin kit and usually 2 keys kind of always don't match up. So what I did was I drilled out down here some and I drilled a hole in here. Now when I drilled the hole in here, I drilled all the way through to the base, right through. The reason why I did that, I'll show you that when I'm ready to do the key. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to seal up this tonight. Tomorrow, we'll do the video on how I get the key into here. And then once the key's dried and that's all done, I'll show you how I place it into the base and how I work out all the key stuff. Because I want it to be flush and I want it to work where it's not going to turn, fall, or whatever. Basically, you just got to use some sculpting skills because, you know, it's a rocky base, so you can get away with throwing extra sculpt and just roughing it out and make it a little rocky, and you get away with it. So basically, right now, tonight, I'll finish up doing this because get this done, and then tomorrow we'll show you how I get the pin into here. Once that's all set, I'll show you how I do all this in here, and then pretty much once that's all done, I fine-tune him and we start the paint work up. So we'll be back. Okay guys, it's the next day, and basically what I did was I filled up the hole with some Magic Sculpt and I put the pin in. So right now it's actually still a little wet. So as I push the pin in, the Magic Sculpt's kind of bled out a little bit. So basically what I do is take some water and just pull it to the sides. You don't want to push it because if you keep pushing the pin, it's not going to be straight. So then once I got that done, basically what I do is I push it in here and I make sure it's going in directly into the hole where I want it to go. Now, when I first put it in, it was coming at an angle. You want it to go straight into the base. So basically, after a little tweaking and pushing this around, I got it to go straight into that hole, the new key that I made up. So basically, it's pretty much where I want it to be. Everything's looking even, and it comes in and out. You know, looking at the foot as I'm turning it, it's nice and straight. It's going down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit overnight, dry, and then tomorrow I come back and I'll show you how I really get it into the base and be much easier. Alright guys, it's the next day, and what I did is I mixed up some Magic Sculpt and I put it into the 2 holes. And as you can see, there's an extra little hole that I went through at the bottom, and I put on 2 pieces of wood. The reason why is because I found out in the past that trying to do it, push the pin into the hole without any kind of like pushing it through, it would come up and it would stick to the pin and it would just drive you nuts. So basically, I just would drill through a hole. Now, not all bases you can do that because, you know, they might be thicker, smaller, or whatever. So, and then last night after I had the pin in, I smoothed out the bottom of his foot a little bit with some extra Magic Sculpt that I had, just because it a little bit smoother is better when you use water onto here, because if it was all jagged, it would keep pulling it up. So just trying to make my life easier. So basically, you just want to get some kind of a tool, end of your paintbrush, just make your basic hole. And basically, it might push through some, it might not, who knows, but make your life easier. So then basically, take your water, go around. I guess you could use, like, some people use Vaseline You can use some other stuff, but water works fine for me. So basically you just take it. So I made the hole a little too big, so push it in a little bit more. And for the first part, just kind of get it in. Don't go too crazy, because it's going to pull up. You know, gotta make sure it's a little bit wet. And I left the magnet over on this foot because I'm trying to get my key over here as well. So, kind of push it in a little bit. Pull it out slow. It might grab in a couple places. If you now, because the way the base is, if you over bleed it a little bit here, as you can see, you can just start, you know, taking your brush. Now, since it's like a rocky base and it's a mess, you really don't have to be super crazy. You can use tools to kind of even it up, but I could always touch this up later. Basically, I want to get this pin straight, and I want to make sure he goes in and out. If for any reason after this dries up during the day and he doesn't fit in, you can always redo it. You can add a little bit more, whatever you need to do. So, now, to really help you out, to make sure it sticks to where you want it to, if you want, you can add a little extra magic sculpt around here, maybe around the heel area. So you get a really good foot indentation there if you want. And if you have the tools, you can just detail it. And every time I pull it out, I always make sure I can clean it. Make sure there's no extra. So as you start to see, you make a square key, and you're making a key over here with the magnet hole. So now, basically, it's pretty much almost there. But during the day, what I will do is, as this sets for an hour, I'll come back and I'll make sure he goes in and out. But for now, what you can do is you can do some detail work, you know, make the Rockies a little bit messed up around the foot area. The way I plan on painting the base, this won't really matter in the long run. As long as you're not really, you know, letting it too under detail, like it's just a glob of clay there. So what I'll do is one more time. Now, for some odd reason, I think he's coming forward a little bit. I might, just to be on the safe side, take some more magic sculpt, throw it into the hole a little bit, because it'll still push it at the bottom with that other hole, so it won't come back up. See, and the problem is sometimes it does pull up a lot, which is okay. Just got to keep toying with it. This is a little messy over here. So, alright, so basically this is the first step. Now, I want this to dry for like an hour or so until it gets to the point where it's really starting to become a little bit harder. So this way you can kind of get it in, and then after that, like an hour later or so, I'll come back and make sure. And since this is early, well, this is about like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, probably around like 9 o'clock, I'll make sure that it's going in and out and everything's working pretty good. Make sure you don't have any excess around these areas, and that's pretty much the process. So what we'll do is I'll let this sit and we'll come back and I'll show you how I make sure everything's still working good. Alright guys, so it's been a couple hours, I would say, you know, about maybe 5 hours or so since I've worked on it. So basically you just want to take a little bit of a test, use some water, and you pretty much just want to make sure it's going in to where you want it to, and it does. Shaking the table, it's not wobbling, so it's looking pretty good. So basically, you know, all you got to do is let it sit overnight, which I'm going to do. It's still a tiny bit soft, not a lot, but still a little bit. And then tomorrow I pretty much work out the magnet to get that in there. And then after that I can just detail some edges around here. So we'll be back after, you know, I get all this situated up tomorrow. Okay guys, it is the next day, and basically when I woke up I made sure he went in and out of the base good, and he did. I had no problems. So what I did was I drilled out this hole here and I put the magnet in there, and I made sure I put it in the correct way. And basically he goes in and out of the base with no problems, and he fits in pretty good. The magnets, instead of it twisting and turning, the magnet helped you get it directly in here, so which is good. So basically this foot's magnetized, this foot's with a pin, and now I can move him in and out of the base whenever I want, and he's not completely glued into the base, which is good. Now if you really wanted to glue him into the base, you can pin him going directly up and you can have a one whole piece. If you do that, which is fine, you just have to do the extra masking and everything. Basically what I could do now is while I paint him up, I could get a piece of plywood, drill a hole into the plywood, and have him into the base, which I'll show you down the line. So this way I could paint up the figure, I could paint up the base separately, and I could just run both at the same time while this is drying or this is drying, instead of having to worry about one whole solid piece. So he goes in pretty good. I'm happy with the way it works out. And the next step now is just fine-tuning him up. Basically I'll do some filler primer, I'll sand down here all the gaps that I did, see if there's anything I missed, make sure he's just, you know, looking all good, nothing's errors or anything like that. There is some little gaps underneath the foot over here a little bit, so what I'm going to do is while I work on other stuff today, I'll throw some extra Aves in here, and I'll detail up the rocks a little bit, like it's kind of pushing some rocks away. It's just what I want to do, and I'm going to have fun with it. So basically, to give you an idea, we'll be back is when I come back, he's going to be all in a nice coat of skin color. What I like to do is mix up some different company paints to get a nice, good, solid color on there. And the reason why I do that is that helps me fine-tune him. And sometimes you can't see stuff with primer that you can see with skin color. I don't know why, but that's just the way it works. So, you know, we'll come back and we'll be ready to start painting. Now, to give you an idea of the way I work, while I was doing all this, I was actually chroming up and getting my flames ready. So, as you can see, I got my chromed flames all set up. So, you know, I'm not just working on one thing and then I work on to the next thing. I'm working on all stuff at once. So I knew that I could get these chromed up and detailed while I'm working on all this. So now that he'll be ready to paint, I can paint these up whenever. Now, I'm not going to show you how I paint up the flames because I did some other videos like that in the past. So this is just giving you an idea that I'm working on this stuff, I'm also working on this at the same time. So you can kind of split up the duties of the projects. So basically, we will be back shortly once I get him all fine-tuned, and we will start the paint work. I'll do up a video or two of how I do all the skin tones, and then basically that'll probably be about it, because as far as once the skin tones are done, it's a matter of just doing basic paint of masking off the shorts, the whites up here, and doing the base. So I'll have him set up on a piece of wood painting up, and I'll also be doing the base at the same time because it's just easier that way, the way I have this all situated. So we will be back, and hopefully all these videos are helping you out and giving you some good ideas. I'm looking forward to seeing some other people's, you know, PrototypeZ Street Fighter kits. And we'll see you shortly.